Welcome back, and thanks for tuning in to NK Cheating Story. We truly appreciate every single one of you. Where are you watching from? Drop a comment and let us know. Now, let's dive into today's story. My name is Daniel Walker. I thought I had it all: a loyal wife, two beautiful daughters, and a thriving family business built with my brother. But one phone call changed everything. That morning, I rushed home thinking something had happened to my girls. Instead, I walked into the beginning of a nightmare I never saw coming. My wife didn't just leave me. She left me for the one person I trusted most. What I uncovered next would shatter my world, tear my family apart, and force me to fight like hell, not just for justice, but for the truth buried in my own bloodline. Friday mornings were usually quiet for me. Routine. Predictable. I'd grab my coffee at 7 a.m., go over the bid estimates for the week, and spend the rest of the morning checking in with clients or reviewing project updates from our foreman. But that morning, something was off. It started with a phone call. My phone lit up with a name I knew by heart: Lauren, my wife, the mother of our two daughters. She never called during work hours unless it was urgent, and the second I answered, I could hear the panic in her voice. "Can you come home?" she said, breathless. "Please." Now. No explanation. No details. Just that urgent, breathless tone that made my heart sink into my stomach. I dropped everything, left my laptop open, phone calls unanswered, and told my assistant I had a family emergency. I didn't even wait for a reply. I grabbed my keys and headed straight for the door. I own half of one of the largest electrical contracting companies in the state, a family business passed down from my father to my brother and me. I manage commercial contracts while my older brother, Eric, handles residential work. We've been growing like crazy over the last few years. It's my pride and joy. But in that moment, none of it mattered. My mind was spinning. My first thought was the girls, Kayla and Brooke. They're teenagers, 15 and 13, smart, beautiful, athletic. Maybe something had happened at school. A car accident? A sports injury? The thoughts spiraled as I tore through traffic. When I pulled into the driveway, what I saw didn't make sense. There were movers. A truck was backed into the driveway, and men were hauling out boxes. Our boxes from the house. Furniture, luggage, decor I'd picked out with Lauren years ago when we bought the place. And there she was, Lauren, standing beside the brand new white SUV I bought her last Christmas. Arms crossed, sunglasses on, her expression cold, unreadable. "What's going on?" I asked, my voice sharp. She didn't answer right away. Instead, she reached into her designer purse, pulled out an envelope, and held it out to me like a business transaction. I took it, opened it, and instantly felt like the air had been knocked out of me. "Divorce papers." "I'm done, Daniel," she said flatly. "I've fallen out of love, and I'm with someone else now." My ears started ringing. I blinked, hoping I'd misheard. "Excuse me. I'm leaving. For good. The girls are already moved in with me. This is goodbye." She turned and walked toward the SUV as if 17 years of marriage could be thrown in a box and packed away like the rest of our home. I stood there, stunned, watching strangers carry my life out the front door. The walls that had heard our daughter's first words, the kitchen where we danced at midnight after putting the kids to bed, all of it being emptied like it never meant anything. I chased her down before she could get in the car. "Who is it, Lauren? Who are you leaving me for?" She paused, smiled faintly. "You'll figure it out soon enough." And with that, she slammed the door shut and pulled away. I stood in the driveway like an idiot, clutching the divorce papers like a death certificate. Because that's exactly what it was, the death of the life I thought we had. No warning, no counseling, no conversation. Just done. But I wasn't done. Not yet. Something about her behavior didn't sit right with me. Lauren wasn't some impulsive woman. This wasn't just falling out of love. This was planned, coordinated, pre-packed. She had already moved the girls without even telling me. And that SUV, how the hell had she paid for a place to move into without me noticing? We shared accounts. I handled the money. She didn't have that kind of freedom. Unless someone else was helping her. The movers were still working, so I approached one of them. Tipped him $100 and casually asked, "Hey, where's all this stuff going?" My wife forgot to tell me. He hesitated at first, but money talks. He scribbled an address on a packing slip and handed it to me. I thanked him, went inside to grab my wallet and a few things, locked up, and drove straight to the address. It was only 10 minutes away. I turned onto a quiet, upscale street. My stomach tightened with every house I passed. And then, I saw it. Eric's house. At first, I thought it had to be a mistake. Maybe she was dropping the girls off to see their uncle. But then I saw Lauren's SUV in the driveway. And in the window, a silhouette moved across the living room. A man. Tall. Familiar. My brother. That was the moment something inside me cracked. The betrayal wasn't just an affair. It was a double-blind stab through the heart by the woman I married and the man I'd grown up calling my best friend. My own brother. I sat in my truck, staring at the house, gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. I wasn't just losing my wife. I was losing my entire family. And I had no idea how far this betrayal would go. I didn't remember driving home. The world outside the windshield was a blur, just shapes, colors, and shadows smearing together like a bad dream. My mind was frozen on the image I'd just seen. Lauren, at Eric's house. She hadn't just left me. She'd moved in with my brother. That word echoed through my skull like a bullet ricocheting off bone. Brother. My blood. The man who stood beside me at my wedding. The one I trusted with our family business. The one I defended time and time again, even when he screwed up. Now he was sleeping with my wife. No, not just sleeping with her. Living with her. I pulled into my driveway and parked. The movers were gone. The house was quiet. Lifeless. My home, once filled with laughter, arguments, music, footsteps, was now just empty space and silence. I sat on the edge of our bed. Correction, my bed now. The master bedroom was stripped clean. Her perfume still lingered faintly in the air, and for a second, I wished I could erase the scent. I wanted to rip everything apart. The mattress, the curtains, burn it all. But rage wouldn't fix this. I wasn't going to cry. Not yet. I didn't have time for tears. I needed answers. 20 minutes later, I was walking into the company headquarters, Tate Electric Solutions, the business our father built with his bare hands. The building we poured our lives into. I was done playing dumb. I didn't knock on Eric's office door. I kicked it open. His receptionist, Mary, stood up in shock. Mr. Tate, Daniel, he's on a private call. Then let him end it. I turned to her, eyes hard. Come with me. I want a witness. Mary followed reluctantly as I stepped inside. Eric looked up, startled. He hung up the phone slowly, his lips parting like he was about to lie before I could even say a word. Daniel, you've got until my divorce is final to buy me out. Get the business appraised. I want every cent I'm owed. After that, we're done. What are you talking about? He said, playing dumb. I slammed the divorce papers onto his desk. The movers gave me Lauren's new address. You know, the one where my daughters are now living. The one with your name on the mailbox. His face drained of color. I saw her. I saw her SUV. I saw your shadow through the blinds. Eric didn't deny it. Not a single word. He just stared at me, frozen. Mary's eyes welled up as realization dawned. I could feel her heart break for me, maybe even for herself. She had worked beside us for years, seen us build this company, seen us laugh as brothers. This wasn't just a betrayal of a marriage. It was a fracture of everything. How long has this been going on? I asked through clenched teeth. Eric looked down. Were all those times I covered for you? When I thought you were seeing someone random, just afternoons with my wife. I scoffed, bitter. I should get tested for STDs, shouldn't I? God knows what kind of trail you've left behind. He tried to speak, but I raised a hand. No, you don't get to explain. You made your choice. I never meant for it to happen this way, he said, barely above a whisper. You mean getting caught? I picked up the phone from his desk, dialed our mother's number, and put it on speaker. Mom, I said when she answered. Today is my last day at the company. I'm resigning immediately. Eric will be buying out my shares. There was a pause. Daniel, what happened? You love that business. Your eldest son is shacking up with my soon-to-be ex-wife, I said coldly. They're getting married. You should stop by the house. I'm sure they'd love to introduce you. I hung up before she could respond. Eric's face went red, then white. He stood frozen, trying to figure out how to spin this. But there was no spin left. This wasn't a PR issue. This was war. Mary, I said, turning. Follow me to my office. I want you to witness what I take with me. I'll be handing over all keys. I want a signed statement that I didn't remove anything that doesn't belong to me. She nodded silently. I passed by desks full of people I respected, some I mentored personally. I didn't explain. I didn't need to. Everyone knew something explosive had just happened. And honestly, I wanted them to. Let them whisper. Let them guess. Let Eric squirm under the weight of every stare and rumor. In my office, Joanne, my longtime receptionist, looked up in confusion. Daniel? What's going on? I'm leaving, I said simply. Because Eric stole my wife. And my daughters. Her mouth dropped open. With Mary and Joanne watching, I listed every item I packed, just a few personal things. They documented the process, typed up a statement, and made 5 copies. We each signed. We each kept one. Security escorted me out. People lined the hallway, pretending to work, but really just watching. I hugged Mary. I hugged Joanne, kissed them both on the cheek, and then I walked out with my box in hand. Not just out of the company, out of the life I had built with blood, sweat, loyalty, and blind faith. Faith in a woman who had lied to my face. Faith in a brother who had put a knife in my back. The sun was shining outside, but it might as well have been midnight. As I opened the trunk of my car and dropped in the box, a single thought echoed in my mind. If they were willing to do this, what else had they done behind my back? And I wasn't sure I wanted the answer. Not yet. By the time I got home, the silence had weight to it. No laughter, no footsteps, no doors slamming upstairs. The house, once alive with the chaos of 2 teenage daughters and a woman I thought was my soulmate, was now a hollow shell. A mausoleum of memories. Only the essentials were gone. Lauren had taken just enough to start over. The furniture in the girls' bedrooms. Their clothes. A few personal belongings. Everything else. Left behind like it meant nothing. I wandered through the house like a stranger. Every photo frame stared back at me. Forced smiles, fake happiness. The lies were baked into every corner of this place. I ended up in the kitchen, opened the liquor cabinet, and poured myself a drink. Then another. Then a third. I wasn't counting. Just trying to numb the part of me that still couldn't believe this was real. Eventually, I passed out on the living room couch, the divorce papers lying open across my chest like a warning label. I woke up with a pounding headache and the stench of betrayal still lingering in the air. I forced myself into the shower, shaved, dressed. Saturday morning chores used to give me a sense of order. Structure. Not today. Today I was just going through the motions of a man trying not to shatter. Around 1 p.m., I turned my phone back on. 12 missed calls. 22 texts. My mother. Lauren. Eric. The girls. I ignored them all, except one. A voicemail from my mom. Daniel, call me when you can. I'm so sorry. She didn't have to say more. She knew. Somehow she knew. I deleted the rest without listening. Lauren's message was probably her trying to talk it through. Eric would be full of justifications. And the girls? I didn't even know where they stood anymore. Were they siding with their mother? Were they angry with me? Or had they known all along? I didn't want to know. Not yet. Instead, I drove straight to the real estate office and walked in with fire in my veins. I want to list my house, I told the agent. My ex-wife will handle the final pricing, but I want it gone. Fast. She raised an eyebrow. She'll need to sign the listing agreement. Here's her number, I said, scribbling it on a sticky note. Let her know the furniture stays. If she wants it out, she can pay for movers. About an hour later, the agent called. Mr. Tate? Your wife showed up this morning. She wasn't happy. She said she was shocked you were including the furniture. I laughed bitterly. She didn't ask me if she could take my children. Or my brother. She can be shocked all she wants. The agent hesitated, then added, she also seemed surprised you're pulling out of the family business. She said you're being emotional. Emotional? I said, my voice low and sharp. She moved in with my brother. She's trying to steal my kids. She served me divorce papers while the movers were packing the house. I think I've earned the right to be a little emotional. I understand, sir, she replied gently. If you need a good divorce attorney, I have a contact. Text me her info. I hung up, heart pounding, and sat in the car outside the office. That's when I saw Connie's car, my sister. She lived halfway across the state. If she was here, it meant one thing. My mother knew everything. I opened the door before she could knock. It must be serious if you drove all the way here. She looked at me with pained eyes. Mom's devastated. She found out Lauren and the girls are at Eric's house. I nodded slowly, jaw tightening. How long? She said Lauren admitted it's been going on for about 2 years. 2 years. I clenched my fists. How the hell did I not see it, Connie? You trusted them, she said. That's not a weakness, Daniel. That's who you are. I handed her the divorce papers. Read this. You'll love the part where she accuses me of emotional cruelty because I wouldn't let our daughters date at 13 without supervision. She flipped through the pages, her mouth tightening. She wants primary custody? And she's painting you like a controlling tyrant. She's going for the jugular, I said. And Eric's backing her. Connie sighed, holding back tears. Mom doesn't want you leaving the company. I scoffed. So what? I stay on as the family cuck? The man everyone pretends didn't just get gutted by his own brother? Jesus, Daniel, she whispered. How do I explain this to her? She might understand the infidelity, but she won't get why I can't sit at the same boardroom table with the man who destroyed my family and expects me to keep smiling. I paced across the kitchen, rage building again. He didn't just sleep with my wife, Connie. He stole my daughters, my home, my name. He made me look like a fool. I know, she said, and you need to cut him out completely. Sell your shares. Let Mom see the truth, all of it. She called her husband, Tom, a finance guy. When she hung up, she looked at me with purpose. He'll get the company appraised Monday. We'll find a buyer. You don't have to face them alone. I opened the drawer, pulled out 5 years of financial records, and handed them to her. Give these to Tom. Let's get this over with. What about Kayla and Brooke? She asked gently. That's up to the court, I said. But I'm requesting paternity tests. I want the truth. Connie looked shocked, but she didn't question me. Later that night, I couldn't sleep. The bed felt foreign. The house too quiet. I missed Lauren next to me, and I hated myself for it. So I made a decision. I'd meet with the lawyer. Then I'd leave town. Not to run, but to think. Because I needed space. Because if I stayed in this house another night, I wasn't sure I'd survive it. I left town the following morning. After meeting the lawyer and handing over the divorce papers, financial records, and the draft of my resignation letter, I packed a single bag and hit the road. No destination, no plan. Just me, the open highway, and the roaring silence in my head. I didn't even know what I was running from anymore. The pain, the betrayal, the embarrassment. Or maybe it was the creeping thought I couldn't shake. What if the girls aren't mine? The idea had clawed into my brain like a parasite since the moment I found out Lauren was living with Eric. 2 years, she said. He said 5. Both were lies, but one thing was clear. This affair wasn't recent. It wasn't a fling. It was planned, nurtured, and kept in the dark for years. If they could lie about that, what else had they lied about? What if Kayla and Brooke weren't mine? I stopped at a rest area 2 hours south of the city, parked the car, turned off the ignition, and just sat. My chest was tight. Not from heartbreak anymore, but something worse. Humiliation. They didn't just stab me in the back. They paraded the blade for everyone to see. And I had been the fool. Smiling. Working. Defending my family name while they laughed behind closed doors. I must have dozed off in the car. When I woke, the sun was lower in the sky. A police cruiser had pulled in beside me. The officer approached casually, a soda in hand. You've been parked here a while. Everything all right? I sighed, nodding. Going through a divorce. He gave me a knowing look. Say no more. This stretch of highway? You wouldn't believe how many broken hearts pass through here. I half smiled, took the soda, and thanked him. Just then, my phone rang. It was Joanne, my old assistant. I put her on speaker. Her voice was calm, but carried urgency. Daniel, Carl Robertson accepted the role as interim president, just like you suggested. Connie met with him. They told Eric he was being demoted to vice president. He didn't take it well. I exhaled. Let me guess, he refused? Refused, cursed, stormed out. Carl told him, sounds like you've just quit. Security will escort you out. A silence followed. My brother, I said finally, is now unemployed, just like me. Joanne added, almost whispering, off the record? I think Connie and your mother planned it that way. They wanted him out as much as you did. I didn't reply. I couldn't. For the first time in days, I felt the tiniest glimmer of justice. As the call ended, the officer leaned on the car. You've had quite the week, he said. I laughed bitterly. 17 years married. Built a business with my father. Raised 2 daughters. And in less than 72 hours, it's all been ripped out from under me. He nodded respectfully and handed me a business card. If you ever need to reverse course, these roads will still be here. Back in town, I went to my mother's house. She opened the door before I could knock. Her eyes said everything. No judgment, just sorrow. You didn't deserve this, she said as she hugged me. Neither did the girls, I replied. She nodded. Just as I sat down, my phone rang again. Beth's father. I hadn't expected that. Daniel, he said cautiously. The girls have been calling from an unknown number. Lauren took their phones. Says it's personal. I don't buy it. She's hiding them from me, I said flatly. She doesn't want me to speak with them. She moved out Friday, served me divorce papers, and told me she was in love with someone else. I found out it was Eric. He was silent. I'm requesting DNA tests. If I'm not their father, I need to know. If I am, then I'll fight to the last breath for them. I understand, he whispered. What do I tell the girls? Tell them the truth. The one they're not getting from their mother. When the call ended, I sat back and stared at the ceiling. Every second that passed felt like more time lost with my daughters. More memories stolen by the people who should have protected them the most. I called David next, Joanne's husband, a cop, and someone who'd survived a brutal divorce himself. He came over that evening, read the paperwork, and shook his head. You've got more than enough for the court to take you seriously. I want full custody, I said, and I want paternity confirmed. You're justified, he said. Given the betrayal and the time frame, the judge will likely approve the tests. Just be prepared for what comes after. I've been lied to for years, David. I need the truth now, even if it breaks me. He nodded solemnly. I get it. Just remember, your girls love you. They need you strong. But that was the part one wasn't sure about anymore. Did they still love me? Or had Lauren poisoned their minds the same way she poisoned our marriage? Just then, headlights flashed across the window. A truck pulled into my driveway. My stomach sank. Eric. David stood up, eyes hard. Let me handle this. He walked outside, badge in hand, while I stayed behind and listened. Eric was yelling, unhinged. Where's my damn brother? He's losing his mind, accusing me of being the girl's father. I need to fix this before he ruins everything. David stayed calm. When did the affair start? Eric's voice dropped. 5 years ago. David raised an eyebrow. Funny. Lauren told your mom it was too. So which is it? Eric froze. Caught. You made your brother a cock, David said coldly. And now you expect him to accept it and pretend it never happened? There was silence. You might want to get ready, David continued. Because there's a paternity test coming, and the judge is going to want answers. Eric turned and stormed off, slamming the truck door. David walked back inside, calm as ever. He's unraveling, he said. We're going to win this. But you'd better prepare yourself, Daniel. If the girls are yours, great. If not, I interrupted, then I'll still fight like they are. Because in my heart, they always had been. But now, I had to prove it. To them, to the court, and to myself. By Sunday morning, my world had shifted from pain to war. I wasn't just grieving a lost marriage anymore. I was preparing for battle. For my name, my dignity, my daughters. David had confirmed what I already suspected. Eric was losing control. The cracks were starting to show. His mask was slipping, and behind it wasn't some smooth operator. No, it was a man who'd made a mess and thought he could keep it hidden forever. He was wrong. Monday morning, I dropped off the spare keys and security codes for the real estate agent. I told her Lauren could coordinate the sale. I was done with that house. It had become nothing more than a crime scene in my mind. A place where trust was murdered. I hit the road again, needing space. I wasn't running. I was recalibrating. But just an hour into the drive, my phone buzzed. It was Joanne. Just checking you're on the road, she said. I am. Good. Connie just walked in to meet with Carl. I smiled for the first time that day. Let me know when Eric finds out he's out of the company for good. Oh, she said, her tone shifting. He already knows. Later that afternoon, as I was sipping coffee at a rest stop, my phone rang again. It was Connie this time. Eric refused the vice president role. He cursed at Carl. Said it was all your fault. Of course he did. Carl didn't flinch. Told him, well, I guess you've resigned. I'll call security. Eric stormed out. So now he's jobless, I said flatly. Guess he and Lauren have all the time in the world to enjoy their affair now. Connie sighed. Daniel, Mom wants to meet. She says we need to talk about everything. I clenched the phone. I'm not walking into that house with Eric around. He won't be there. Just you, me, and her. That evening, I returned to my childhood home. The place where I learned right from wrong. The place where I thought family meant something. Mom greeted me at the door. Her eyes were tired. Not just from age, but from the weight of watching her sons destroy each other. We sat at the kitchen table in silence for a moment. Then she said softly, I didn't raise either of you to do this to each other. I looked her in the eye. I didn't do this, Mom. She nodded. I know. I didn't want to believe Eric was capable of something so cruel. I took a deep breath. He is. And now I need you to help me clean up the wreckage. Connie laid out the plan. Carl would remain president. She'd stay on as CEO. Tom, her husband, was finalizing the appraisal. We'd buy out Eric's shares, freeze him out completely. Mom surprised us both when she said, "I'm transferring an additional 3% of my shares to you, Daniel. That puts you at 27%. With Connie's 21%, you'll have full control." I blinked. Why? Because you've been running this company in spirit for years. And because I don't trust Eric not to burn it to the ground on his way out. Later that night, as I packed my suitcase for what felt like the 10th time, I heard tires in the gravel outside. I looked out the window and froze. Beth's father. He stepped onto the porch, his face pale. "We need to talk." I let him in, unsure of what now. He didn't waste time. "Have you heard the rumors?" he asked quietly. "About Eric? Which ones?" "The ones from the work yards. That he looks at girls younger than he should. That he's got some kind of stash on his computer." My blood went cold. He continued, "Your daughters, Kayla and Brooke, found something. Inappropriate videos. They were scared. They called me and my wife from a school phone. Beth had taken their phones away. Wouldn't let them talk to anyone. What the hell? They're with us now. We picked them up and took them to a safe place." "God," I whispered, sitting down hard. "Tell me you're not joking." He shook his head. "I wish I were. But Daniel, what if that's why Eric wanted them living with him? With Lauren?" I couldn't breathe. I'd been worried about betrayal, about DNA, about custody battles and visitation rights. But this was a whole different level of horror. I pulled out my phone, called David, and told him everything. Within an hour, he was at the house. Calm, focused, dead serious. "We're going to need to get a search warrant. If what they found is real, Eric is finished. And if he wanted Lauren to move in so he'd have access to your daughters, we're talking about more than divorce court. This will go criminal. Fast." I nodded, jaw tight. "Get whatever you need. Use my daughter's statements. I'll testify. Hell, I'll tear down every wall in that damn house if it helps." David placed a hand on my shoulder. "You're not alone in this, Daniel." That night, the police raided Eric's home. Lauren was there, and according to the report, completely blindsided. She had no idea what was on the computer, or at least, that's what she claimed. I didn't care. Not anymore. I drove back to Mom's, head pounding, heart racing. When I arrived, the girls were already there, safe. They ran to me the moment I walked in, arms wrapping around me like they hadn't seen me in years. "I missed you," Kayla whispered, choking back tears. "Me too," Brooks said. We didn't know what to believe. But we saw it all. On his computer. "It was real, Dad. It was real." "I know, sweetheart," I said, voice shaking. "I'm here now, and I'm never letting anyone hurt you again." In that moment, I didn't care about paternity tests. I didn't care about blood. They were my daughters. And now, I was fighting not just for custody, but to keep them out of the hands of a monster who used to be my brother. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I couldn't, but because I wouldn't. My daughters were finally back under the same roof as me. Safe. Free from Eric's influence. But even as they slept, wrapped in blankets in my old childhood bedroom, I sat by the window, staring into the darkness. A part of me still didn't believe this was real. The same brother I grew up idolizing, defending, working beside, had not only stolen my wife, but may have tried to take my daughters for something far more sinister. David was already working with the DA. The police had seized Eric's computers. Forensics was underway. I didn't need to ask what they'd find. I knew what Kayla and Brooke saw wasn't imagined. Their terrified eyes told me everything I needed. By morning, I had a plan. The divorce hearing was coming fast, and I wasn't going into that courtroom just as a betrayed husband. I was walking in as a father whose entire world had been nearly ripped away. David called me mid-morning. "We got the search warrant. The evidence is mounting. You may want to prepare for supervised visits for Lauren if this keeps going the way it is." "Supervised?" I repeated. "That's it. For now," he said, serious. "But once we tie Eric's behavior to access motives, the judge won't hesitate to revoke her custody rights altogether." I nodded. "Let me know when you're ready to move. I'll give my statement, whatever it takes." Later that day, as I was cleaning out my old room, now acting as temporary storage for the girls' things, I found something that stopped me cold, a shoebox filled with old photos. Me, Lauren, the girls as toddlers, Christmas mornings, birthdays, family vacations at the lake, images from a life I thought was perfect, a life that never really existed. Connie found me sitting on the floor, holding a picture of Lauren with Kayla on her shoulders at the beach. "You okay?" she asked gently. "I don't know," I whispered. "I keep wondering what I missed. How did it get to this? How does someone pretend for that long?" She sat beside me, resting a hand on my shoulder. "Because people like Lauren and Eric don't think like us. They rewrite the truth to fit their needs." "I still love her, Connie," I admitted, shame burning my throat. "Even after everything. Even knowing who she became." She nodded. "That's not weakness, Daniel. That's humanity. But you can't let it stop you from protecting the girls. Or yourself." I wiped my face, stood, and dropped the shoebox into a garbage bag. That chapter's over. That night, after dinner, the girls and I sat together in the den. The TV was on, but none of us were watching. It was Kayla who broke the silence. "Dad, if you find out we're not yours, will you still want us?" My heart stopped. I leaned forward, looked her dead in the eye. "I don't care what any test says," I said. "I raised you. I taught you to ride bikes. I bandaged your knees. I scared away your nightmares. You're my daughters. Nothing changes that." Brooke burst into tears. Kayla hugged me so tight I could barely breathe. That moment solidified everything. I was done questioning, done doubting. Biology didn't matter. Love did. The next morning, I met with my attorney. We reviewed the video David had recorded during his confrontation with Eric. The part where Eric admitted the affair had been going on for 5 years, contradicting Lauren's 2-year lie. It was damning, especially when paired with the growing digital evidence from Eric's seized devices. We walked into court that Friday like we were carrying thunder in our briefcases. The courtroom was quiet, clinical, but under the surface, tension burned like a gas leak waiting for a spark. Judge Donald McDonald presided, known for being impartial, firm, and absolutely brutal when he smelled deception. Lauren sat at the plaintiff's table. Eric was beside her. He looked smaller than I remembered, almost gaunt, like the weight of his own actions had started to bury him. Good. My lawyer laid out everything. The affair, the sudden divorce, the attempts to cut off contact with my daughters, the shady motives behind Lauren and Eric's new living arrangement. Then she played the video. The judge watched, eyes narrowing as Eric's voice played back on the recording. "It started 5 years ago." Then, the judge turned to Lauren. "Your affidavit states the affair began 2 years ago. Which is it?" Lauren froze. Eric glanced at her, panic flashing in his eyes. They had no answer. The judge didn't need more. He banged his gavel once. "There is sufficient evidence of infidelity, deception, and potential harm to the children. A paternity test will be ordered immediately. In the meantime, temporary sole custody is granted to Mr. Daniel Walker. Visitation for Mrs. Walker will be limited and supervised." Lauren's face crumbled. Eric slumped in his chair. I didn't smile. I didn't gloat. I just exhaled for the first time in weeks. Outside the courtroom, Lauren's parents stood stiffly. When she tried to approach them, they turned their backs. Her older brother, Ted, met my eyes and gave me a slow, respectful nod. "Want the girls for the weekend?" I asked him. His face softened. "We'd love to." As I watched them walk away hand in hand with their grandparents, I felt something rise inside me. Not victory. Peace. Because this wasn't the end of a family. It was the beginning of one worth fighting for. After the court hearing, something inside me finally shifted. For the first time since this nightmare began, I wasn't drowning in betrayal. I was swimming towards something solid. I had custody of my daughters. Eric was on the verge of criminal charges. Lauren was reeling, shunned by her own parents. And I was no longer the man lying broken on the floor. I was rebuilding. The next day, I met with Ted, Lauren's brother. We had lunch, just the two of us, sitting at the diner we used to visit back when Lauren and I were still newlyweds. He'd been quiet for weeks, stuck in the middle, but now the truth was out, and the weight on his shoulders had been lifted. "Daniel," he said after a long pause, "I want to start over. I've had enough of the city, the drama, of watching my sister destroy everything she touched." I nodded. "There's a spot open in the logistics department. We need someone to oversee inventory across the 3 regional hubs. It pays $60,000 to start, with room to grow." His eyes widened. "You serious?" "As a heart attack. And if you decide to stay, I'll even sell you my old house. Full price. No discounts. Fair and clean." "You do that for me?" he asked, voice low. "I'd do it for your kids. They deserve stability." Later that week, Ted and his wife Jackie made an offer on the house. I accepted. The paperwork was sent to Lauren for her signature. She didn't object, probably because she didn't have the energy anymore. Truth was, her world was collapsing. Word had gotten around about what was found on Eric's computer. Nothing had been officially charged yet, but the gossip was wildfire, spreading from job sites to boardrooms. His reputation was toast, and hers, irreparably tied to it. Meanwhile, the company was thriving. Carl, now officially president of Parish Electrical, was doing a phenomenal job. Connie remained CEO, and Tom, her husband, had joined as CFO. With my mother's blessing, I retained 27% ownership, enough to make any final decision if needed. Eric had sold his shares through his lawyer for $5 million. A desperate move, but one we needed to move forward. We just finalized a $10 million acquisition deal for a bankrupt competitor up north. The plan was to expand, rebrand, and redeploy, turn their disaster into our opportunity. I authorized interest-free loans for former employees to become contractors under our retail wing. They could buy trucks and equipment at wholesale prices, and we'd handle accounting support with QuickBooks. Ted's first move as head of resource management cut our costs by 20%. He was a natural. One evening, as we wrapped a late meeting, Joanne pulled me aside in the hallway. "David wants to meet tonight. He has something you need to see." I drove over to their house, stomach already tight. David met me at the door with a file in hand. "This," he said, "is what we found on Eric's hard drive." I opened the folder slowly, reading each page. Girls from the area. Teenagers. Names. Photos. Timestamped files. My blood turned to ice. David explained, "We suspect it was his trophy list, including Beth, including others, and likely why he wanted Lauren to move in with your girls." I clenched my jaw. "We can use this in court." David nodded. "It's more than enough to back your lawyer's claim that he targeted access to Kayla and Brooke. Lauren might have been manipulated, but she still allowed it." I took a long breath. "I want supervised visitation only. Permanently. I'll handle it with the DA. We're also notifying parents of other victims." I left their house shaken, but grateful. David wasn't just helping me. He was protecting my girls like they were his own. The next day, I picked Kayla and Brooke up from school. We talked about small things at first, friends, lunch, how Brooke was prepping for her learner's permit. Then the conversation got quiet. "Dad," Brooke asked, "do you think Mom ever really loved you?" I was silent for a beat. I think she loved the version of me that fit her world. But once that changed, she didn't fight for us. She didn't protect you. And that's what love is supposed to be. Kayla nodded slowly. "We saw the photos, Dad. On Uncle Eric's computer." I looked at her in the rearview mirror. "You don't have to talk about it." "I know," she said, eyes watery. "But we're glad you believed us. Some girls don't get lucky." "No," I said quietly. "Some don't. But you did. And I'm never letting you go again." That weekend, Tamara, the pediatric oncologist I met at the charity event, joined us for dinner at my mother's. She was calm, intelligent, and carried herself with quiet grace. The girls took to her quickly. Even Mom seemed impressed. After dinner, we went for a walk around the neighborhood. The stars were out. The air smelled like hope. "You're good with them," I said. "I've seen enough broken families to know how rare this is," she replied. "You fought like hell to keep yours intact. That means something." I stopped walking, looked at her seriously. "Tamara, I'm not whole. Not yet. But I want to be." She smiled. "Then let's see where this goes." We kissed under the moonlight. Later that week, we announced our engagement. The girls were thrilled. Connie cried. My mother nearly fainted from joy. And when Bree sent a video of the celebration to Lauren, the fallout was immediate. That same night, I got a call from Ted. "Lauren overdosed," he said flatly. "Sleeping pills. She's gone, Daniel." I said nothing. Not because I didn't care, but because there was nothing left to say. She made her choices. And now she'd paid the final price. Eric, still awaiting trial, was shattered. He blamed me. I didn't care. At her funeral, he approached me, eyes bloodshot. "I'm sorry," he muttered. I looked him dead in the eyes. "I don't believe you," I said. And then I turned and walked away. A week before Labor Day, my office door burst open. Carl, Joanne, Tom, and Mary came in, all grinning like kids who just pulled off the ultimate prank. Behind them was Lucy, our newest assistant. Carl held up a bottle of champagne. We paid off the acquisition loan. In full. I stared at them for a moment. Then laughed, really laughed, for the first time in months. "We're debt-free." I asked. Tom nodded. Completely. And ahead of schedule. Thank God, I said, leaning back in my chair. I never want another 6 months like we just had. Carl smirked. It wasn't all bad. You're about to marry the best woman in this county. Maybe even the state. I smiled. Just don't say we had to get married. Tamara's only 2 months along. Everyone laughed, even Lucy. The mood was light, almost celebratory, but underneath it all, I felt the gravity of what we had pulled off. Not just a business comeback, but a personal resurrection. Later that evening, I returned home. Tamara greeted me at the door, wearing a simple white sundress that hugged her growing bump. Her smile was radiant. The girls are at Connie's, she said, kissing me on the cheek. We have the house to ourselves. I like the sound of that. We sat outside on the back porch, watching the last golden streaks of summer fade into twilight. I held her hand as we talked about the wedding plans, small, private, intimate, just family and a few friends. Then I got serious. Tamara, I said, are you sure about this? I'm still carrying a lot, scars, memories, ghosts. She turned to me. Daniel, I didn't fall in love with a perfect man. I fell in love with a good man who survived hell and didn't lose his soul. I kissed her then, deeply, knowing she saw the parts of me no one else dared to touch. The next morning, we met with Ted at the main office. He was thriving in his new role, streamlining purchasing, distribution, inventory across our 3 hubs. Thanks to his negotiation skills and bulk purchasing strategies, we'd cut costs by 20%. Even better, former employees from the bankrupt company we acquired were now self-employed contractors under our umbrella. We gave them interest-free loans, helped them buy trucks, equipment, and licenses. Human Resources provided QuickBooks support, training, even job leads. Our business wasn't just growing, it was changing lives. Ted's wife, Jackie, had fully furnished their new home. Their kids were happy. Stability had returned to a family that had once been tied to Lauren's chaos. Ted looked at me across the boardroom table one day and said, "Thanks for believing in me. I'll never let you down." "You already haven't," I said. "Now help me take this company statewide." We were on track, but the emotional repairs were still underway. The girls, though resilient, were healing in their own time. Brooke was prepping for her learner's permit. Kayla had joined a school debate team. I made it a point to be there, every practice, every late-night study session, every school drop-off, because I'd missed enough already. One evening, I sat both of them down in the living room. "There's something you need to hear from me," I said, "about what love really is." They watched me, curious, cautious. "Love isn't just about passion," I told them. "It's not just physical or emotional. Real love is when you put the other person's well-being ahead of your own. It's about loyalty, sacrifice, patience." They were quiet for a moment. Then Kayla said, "Is that why Uncle Eric and Mom didn't work?" I nodded. They mistook desire for love. They gave in to temptation instead of fighting for what mattered. And it destroyed them. Brooke whispered, "But you never stopped fighting, even when it hurt." I pulled them both in and held them tight. "You're my legacy," I said. "You and this company. I don't care what the DNA test said. You're mine." The next day, the court officially finalized the divorce. Lauren had received $4 million in the settlement, but no company shares. I was granted full custody of the girls. She had liberal visitation rights, so long as Eric was never present. DNA results confirmed what I already believed in my heart. Kayla and Brooke were mine. Every inch, every heartbeat. But Lauren never showed up for her visitations. She never called again. Not long after, Eric's trial began. The digital evidence was overwhelming. Multiple counts of statutory assault were filed. Parents of past victims agreed to testify. The DA was confident he'd receive at least 7 years. Maybe more. His friends turned their backs. His name became poison. He blamed me for it all. But I didn't care. I didn't even show up to the courtroom. He wasn't worth another second of my energy. Instead, I poured that time into building something better. We expanded north, took over contracts, absorbed the best talent. Ted's resource strategies saved us millions. Carl and Tom formed a tight leadership trio with Connie, who remained CEO. Joanne and Mary were promoted to executive assistant directors. We were leaner, stronger, more united than ever. And one sunny fall afternoon, we threw a company-wide barbecue at my mother's house. Tamara wore that same white sundress. Only now, the bump was more pronounced. She fit in with everyone. laughing with Connie, helping serve ribs with my mother, getting swarmed by the girls' friends. Ted walked over and whispered, "You're not just back, Daniel. You're thriving." I watched my daughters run around the yard, giggling with Tamara. I saw Carl and Mary sharing a beer with the guys from the field crews. I saw a future I never thought I'd have again. "You know something, Ted?" I said. "Sometimes the fire doesn't destroy you. It forges you." And as the sun dipped low and laughter filled the yard, I finally understood. My story didn't end with betrayal. It began with resilience. It was written in forgiveness, rebuilt with loyalty, and sealed with love. And for the first time in a long, long while, I was home. As I sit on that same back porch, years later, with Tamara's hand in mine and the scent of autumn in the air, I've come to understand the deeper meaning of everything we went through. Betrayal, heartbreak, and loss. They broke me, yes, but they also rebuilt me. And if there's one thing life has taught me, especially now that I'm older and see things more clearly, it's this. You can't control what people do to you, but you can control what you do next. To anyone walking a path like mine, especially those in the later chapters of life, let me say this plainly. It's never too late to protect your peace, reclaim your worth, or start over. Family isn't just blood. It's love, loyalty, and who shows up when life knocks you down. Hold your loved ones close, but never be afraid to walk away from those who've forgotten how to treat you with respect. I lost a marriage. I nearly lost my children. But I gained something far more valuable: clarity, courage, and a future rooted in truth. Sometimes, the deepest healing begins when you finally stop watering dead things and let new roots grow.